Good morning, my fellow bicycle builders. So here is the introduction of what I will submit in 2025 to the cheap bike build off. In short, you might have all read that the budget is 150 US dollars, equivalent wherever you purchased, and we are liable to account for value of parts even if they come from our stock. So what am I building here? I'm short of a off-road dash mud weapon currently. I am well covered for going shopping. I am covered for bike packing. I have a folding bicycle for taking on things like the public rail in Singapore, because you're not allowed with anything else but something that folds. So I'm covered with that. I also have a single speed that I use along the river for leisurely outings. But I absolutely want something that is closest enough to a flat bar cyclocross, or even a curly bar, relaxed bar, party pace bar, the cyclocross-ish kind of bicycle. So this bicycle build here might look a little bit schizophrenic to the outside, and it's not in keeping with any time period. And visually, it just doesn't seem to comply. At least that's my thoughts. But I will do my best to explain why that is that way. The frame that makes most sense for me to use here at this moment in time, and something that requires very little work as on the frame side, is this frame. This is the right size. I like it, and it can. Everything is possible. So it's a vintage Olympia frame, lugged, chromed, beautiful frame, very weathered, very has an extreme patina of being parked outside over the years. I found it abandoned in Lucca, Italy, and it's been sitting clearly in the rain, in the sun. Lucca has a temperature from, let's say, plus 35 to -5. If you're lucky, if it gets minus, it rains, the sun burns down. So putting a frame outside leads to a result like this, no matter how much polishing you do. So anyway, I love this frame, and I will keep this frame, and I might use this frame for other things in the future. I might build it up sympathetic to its time period, but for now it will serve in the center of my cyclocross-ish build. So that's what I'm doing. But make no mistake, I'm going to use this bicycle, so it needs to function well. So I can really only think of two downsides to this frame, and one is obviously the mounting of a rear brake. You're compromised if you don't want to do some welding, and I definitely will not weld on this frame. I will keep it as believably unmodified as possible. I will not weld any brake axis on there. So that's one disadvantage. So as for the rear brake that I need to use. With the front brake, we have no compromise, because I can use a more modernish 1980s, probably chrome moly fork, and that is also quite heavy, 823 grams. I weighed this already. So yeah, stay with the disadvantage of the frame. The frame is heavy-ish, 2,200 grams, so that is a downside for a cyclocrosser. Let's see. yeah, that's the two downsides of that frame. It's beautiful, it's comfortable. It obviously has an Italian um, bottom bracket thread in there, but I made arrangements to cope with that. So that's the frame. Okay, also the fork that I have here, there's no disadvantage other than weight. So that's the two main ingredients. As for budget, okay, the frame came free, but I needed at least a full can of WD-40. That's why this can sits here as a reminder. So I will put that down as cost. I'm kind of messed up in my head about currencies because I travel the places. So I would have used Italian WD-40 at the time, but for simplicity's sakes, I will take everything back to euros and later on convert into dollars. So I will need to think back how much is a can of WD-40 in Italy. Yeah, that's another story. Okay, the tally. We'll talk about that. So let's talk ingredients first. Bottom bracket, as I said, is Italian. Got specific measurements. I have found a brand new Italian threaded enclosed raised sealed bottom bracket that fits here this application and will fit this very crank, because that's the only thing that I have a narrow wide tooth wheel for it, and we're going with that because currently that's what is available to me. So I have this narrow wide tooth wheels and I have that crank, and they go together. So I think it's a 38 tooth, which is a bit too much, but I'm counteracting with this. So we'll talk about that next. So here we go. Frame, bottom bracket, crank. The crank is out of my stock. I will price it. The tooth wheel I will have bought at some point in time. I will price it. Pedals came off a brand new bicycle that I bought for my daughter some 15 years ago, and they're still around and they still work, and they still didn't need a service even. I might have injected some grease from the outside. Oops, what am I talking about? I need to service that because they're open and I do not have a caps for it. That's not good. So we have some pedal extenders which I will have bought. I will put a price to that. The grips are brand new, fresh, and they will have cost a pretty penny, because that in my books constitutes of the best. To me, this is the best set of grips that I have ever experienced. 2 reasons: you only need one locking clamp. The grip itself is rigid; it does not twist for the absence of a second clamp, and it's just fantastic. I'm using the thin and hard ones. I have tried the thick or the medium thick and the medium soft. That didn't gel with me, so that felt too mushy. I prefer control, so I'm using thin and hard. The reason why they're green, because I was thinking this is pretty close to Celeste, which it wasn't, so they were actually not a fit for what I was doing at the time, so they're leftovers in my stock. So, but they kind of were barely in between the blue and the green, so who knows. I'm not very keen of the color setting, but at least it's interesting, and that's the way it is. So for the fork pricing, here we have another example. I must have used some silver paint, I must have used clear paint, and I have used this absolutely super cool see-through tinted clear that is available at Mr. DIY. For example, in Malaysia, not expensive, €5 the can, so I'll put that in there too. So, fork, QR from my stock. I will have polished this frame once I'm done with it, so I will price some T-cut and some chrome polish. The head race will be some stuff that I have laying around. So this is the original cups. I'll leave them well put to not disturb the frame. Tires. I will most definitely use 33mm tires, which are officially correct for any cyclocrossing. These Schwalbes are theoretically new, but they're old, so they cost pretty much nothing. On eBay, most recently, I will look it up. Sonder seat. Somebody has upgraded his seat, and I made a absolutely bargain on eBay. I will look up how much I paid for that. I have a bent rear derailleur, really good one. I love those, the Ore LX. I will need an extender. I have purchased that already, so I will put that in the price, and I will use this 11 to 40 cassette. It's a microshift cassette. I will have bought that on eBay. Again, somebody obviously had some problems with it, and I pretty much know what that is. This is an 8-speed, but it is not as wide as the Shimano 8-speed, so that will have not fitted on somebody's hub, so it was resold as new other dirt cheap. So what we're looking at is most definitely within the budget. There is some parts missing. I haven't decided on the handlebars. I have some regular Shimano V-brakes. I will not want to compromise on the braking. I don't have a shifter yet, so that will be an integrated shifter. I will use flat bars. I will try and use a vintage stem and 25.4mm flat bars. So yeah, that is basically the introduction of this subject. Next things, I will find that bottom bracket, and I will finish the polishing on the fork. That will be the first activity. And so thanks for watching. I'm glad we have this competition again. I enjoyed people building bikes last year, and to me there is nothing more interesting than a budget build where you use humble, down-to-earth ingredients and you make something that was while racing and bicycling and riding and enjoying and fiddling. So here's me doing what I love to do. So I'm looking forward to all yours. So take care, enjoy, see you soon.